Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll tell you about federal help for the U.S. cattle industry and how NCBA is working as the coronavirus shutdown continues to impact the beef industry. Plus, we'll take you to Colorado and the Flying Diamond Ranch to see how the Johnsons balance caring for their cattle and their family.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner, and I'm coming to you from our home and ranch right here in Weld County, Colorado. You know, we're all navigating some very unprecedented and unusual times right now, and that means our show is looking just a little different these days. But I can tell you that we are committed to delivering great information to you each week from one cattleman to another. We have a great program in store for you this week with stories from all across the country. But first, let's get a news update from reporter Russell Nemitz.
As the COVID-19 national emergency continues, the Trump administration is working to implement a $19 billion relief program for farmers and ranchers. At a White House briefing earlier this month, President Trump announced the program and said he was honored to take this action on behalf of America's farmers and ranchers.
Today I'm also announcing that Secretary Perdue, who happens to be right next to me, handsome man, and the Department of Agriculture will be implementing a $19 billion relief program for our great farmers and ranchers as they cope with the fallout of the global pandemic. Very honored to be doing this. Our farmers, ranchers, we have, these are great people, great Americans. Never complain, they just do what they have to do.
During the White House briefing, Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue detailed how the $19 billion will be allocated to help assist America's farmers and ranchers.
The program is really divided into two parts. One is a direct payment, $16 billion in direct payments to farmers, ranchers, and producers who've experienced unprecedented losses during this pandemic. Secondly, and this is really important as well, the USDA will be purchasing $3 billion in fresh produce, dairy, and meat products to be distributed to Americans in need through our food bank networks, as well as other community and faith-based organizations.
Well, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association certainly welcomed the news that the USDA will soon distribute funding to the cattle producers who desperately need help during this ongoing national emergency. Now, joining us from Denver is NCBA CEO Colin Woodall. And Colin, first of all, thank you so much for joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen again.
It's always good to be with you, Russell. Thanks for having me on.
Well, let's get right into it because I want to know your thoughts on the USDA's $19 billion COVID-19 relief package for America's agricultural industry. Is it enough for the U.S. beef cattle industry and all those cattlemen and women out there?
It is far from being enough. And that's based upon the economic study that NCBA commissioned to look at the losses of COVID-19. And as a result of that study, we realized that the U.S. beef industry had losses of $13.6 billion. And that was just through the first part of April. We know that those losses are continuing and could very well continue throughout the year. So we are currently working with USDA and more importantly, working with Congress as they prepare to return to Washington, D.C. to see what additional funding will be available. Because we also need to make sure that we are looking at all of these segments of cattle production. So that means cow-calf producers, stockers, backgrounders, and feeders. We make sure everybody understands very clearly this is not for the packers, this is for producers, but we need to ensure that it is equitably distributed among all of the producer segments.
Colin, a follow-up to that question is Congress also recently passed a new round of funding to replenish the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program, along with including agriculture under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. How important is this for our nation's cattlemen and women?
Well, we were very happy to be included as part of the Small Business Administration's programs. Initially, we were a part of the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, and we had a lot of our members that took full advantage of that program. But we weren't part of the EIDL, as you had mentioned. We have been successful in changing that, so agriculture will now qualify. And there is more money in both of those programs. So this is an additional opportunity for cattle producers to go out and try to find some more assistance if that's what they would like to do. And we encourage everybody to get their paperwork submitted into the Small Business Administration just as quickly as they can, because this is a first come, first served program. So they need to be in line if they truly want to have a chance of getting some of those payments.
Of course, one of the big headlines here of late during this ongoing COVID-19 crisis, if that's what we want to call it, has been all the closures to those meatpacking plants nationwide. What's the very latest there, Colin, on trying to get back to some sort of normalcy?
Well, unfortunately, I think that the worst is yet to come in that regard. And that is what I have gathered in talking to the packers over the past several days. They are still struggling with sick workers. They are struggling with the line speeds, and in some cases, plants that are closed or could potentially close. So we are working with the packers. We are working with their trade association in Washington, D.C., and also working directly with the White House and the National Economic Council to try to provide as much support as we can to ensure that they can continue to operate, even if it is at a reduced speed. The last thing that we want is for them to shut down, because we are already seeing the backup of live cattle. And that, of course, has a significant impact, downward impact on prices. And given all of the stresses that we've had out there, we need to keep the flow of cattle and beef moving. We're also trying to make sure that the consumer understands that right now we don't have a shortage of beef, but we need to get the live cattle moving through these plants and harvested again in order to be able to continue that guarantee, especially as we get closer to the summer.
Colin, some producers are also concerned these days about access to labor. What is the NCBA doing in this area about immigration and, of course, that very important H-2A program?
We have spent a lot of time with Congress, the Department of Labor, and the White House to make sure that there is flexibility in the H-2A programs. That way workers aren't inadvertently sent home just because they don't have the opportunity to change up their status or address their status. And we've been able to get that. And most recently, just at the end of last week, the president put out a proclamation saying that he was shutting down the borders to folks coming across looking for some sort of immigration status, except for agricultural workers. So that was a good exemption that was put in place that will try to help us continue to ensure that we have workers not only for farms and ranches and feedlots, but especially for the packing plants, knowing the need that we currently have and will probably continue to have here for several more weeks, given the COVID-19 crisis.
Well, weather and markets are still the two most important things to farmers and ranchers, whether it's near or far. And certainly the cattle markets aren't where we'd like to see them right now for producers. Can you give us an update on this particular issue and some of the work that NCBA and its cattle market working group are doing as we speak?
Of course, as we talk, the biggest issue is, of course, this backup of live cattle because of the packers not being able to run at full speed. But to your point, Russell, there is a bigger issue out there looking back not only at what we have seen over the 6 weeks of this COVID-19 crisis, but going back to the Holcomb fire last summer and beyond, where we have this issue of ensuring that producers are truly getting paid for the value of their cattle. Because of that, NCBA, during our annual convention in San Antonio, put together the Cattle Marketing Working Group. That working group has already met in person here in Denver in early March, and they have had phone calls throughout this process. Their engagement actually led to NCBA's letter to President Trump asking for investigation of the market situation to include both USDA and the Department of Justice. And right now we are looking at the issue of price discovery and, more importantly, what percentage of cash trade needs to happen in the different regions of this country in order to ensure that we have true price discovery. These are projects that are ongoing, and we do expect to have some recommendations that we can share with our members during our summer business meeting in July here in Denver.
Well, without question, some very encouraging words for cattlemen and cattlewomen across this great country of ours. And Colin, as we begin to wrap things up, what encouragement would you give cattle producers who are going through some very challenging times here of late?
It's hard to find a lot of encouragement these days, Russell, as you said, but I want all of NCBA's members to understand that we are here. We are here every day of the week right now, making sure that we're engaging in this process, trying to respond, whether that is looking long-term at the markets, whether that is looking short-term at keeping the packing plants up and running, or even addressing the issues of local healthcare, rural healthcare, and mental health issues. We are on the job. We are working to ensure that producers have the tools to get through this the best they can. And more importantly, we are absolutely all in this together.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to once again join us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you again, NCBA's Chief Executive Officer, Colin Woodall. If you'd like to stay up to date on all the key issues and policies affecting the beef cattle industry, one way is by becoming a member of the NCBA. When you join, you'll get the Beltway Beef Newsletter, a weekly update straight from Washington that provides valuable insights on the key policy initiatives that may impact your business. To become an NCBA member, just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Up next, we'll check in on beef checkoff funded programs that are working to maintain consumer demand for beef even in the midst of this ongoing COVID-19 crisis. We'll be right back.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Now a BQA tip from the Beef Quality Assurance Program.
When it comes to low-stress cattle handling, I like to tell cattle producers to consider the 5 principles of cattle behavior. 1, cattle want to see you. Number 2, cattle want to go around you. Number 3, cattle want to go back to the last safe place they have been. Number 4, cattle want to be with and go with other cattle. And number 5, cattle can only process one main thought at a time.
Find out more about beef quality assurance at bqa.org.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. While promotion programs managed by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association as a contractor to the Beef Checkoff have certainly shifted and grown in response to the worldwide coronavirus pandemic. Now, these efforts reflect a consumer population that's concerned for their day-to-day health and the availability of safe and wholesome food products like beef. Now joining us from Meade, Nebraska is Buck Werbine, a feedlot manager who, by the way, is also currently serving as chairman of the Federation of State Beef Councils. And first of all, Buck, thank you so much for joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. And first thing out of the chute, let's talk about the impact the coronavirus shutdown has had on your operation, as well as some of your fellow cattle producers there in Nebraska.
Sure. Thanks, Russell, and thanks for having me on and giving the opportunity to talk about the checkoff. You know, we've had a futures market that's fallen by a third, and a live cattle market that's fallen, if we know where it's going, it's fallen by a fourth or so. And so you've got consternation and frustration and aggravation and fear and anger out here on the broad domain from all this, and of course the fiscal pain. At our feed yard, we fortunately have had no illness, and so life goes on every day, and like it does 365 days a year, taking care of these cattle. So in that way, it hasn't changed, but financially and all the emotions changed a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the current trends among consumers that are relative to beef.
Yeah, so our consumer demand is good. Our consumers still like beef. Fortunately, we've had consumer research that we've done for years now that we build on every year, and we look at what our consumers think and what they're looking for, and that has not changed. 90% of the people are about the same now as they were going into this, which is good news. According to our market research, they plan on eating the same amount of beef that they were before this. So that's really good news in a time when all this strangeness out here could change habits by a lot. I'm going to read a few things here because I don't want to get them wrong. If you ask me about the markets and so forth, I can count them off my head, but these things are not stuck in my brain. So, you know, consumers have been rushing to stock up on essentials, including meat, over the last couple of months. And so beef sales exceeded 90% growth year over year at the retail level. And we kind of saw that on the news, and everybody's kind of aware of that. The problem is the opposite can be said for the food service, you know, the restaurants. So the dine-in restaurants have really suffered. I think they're down something like 80%. Yeah, about 80%. And fortunately, a big user of hamburger, the fast food McDonald's type places, are off about 40% year over year. So I think you can see that while where they're eating it and where they're purchasing it has changed, our consumers are still liking our product and buying it.
Yeah, that without question is some very good news. Now, Buck, given this new reality, let's talk about some of the new ways the Beef Checkoff program funded promotion programs have responded.
Yeah, and that's, once again, that's a great resource that we can tap into the information that we've got. And so the NCBA, it's a contractor to the checkoff, is continuing to work on building beef demand, providing the consumers information they need in this time. I guess 3 out of 4 consumers are under a stay-at-home order. And so we know that a lot of meals are eaten away from home. Well, a lot more meals are getting eaten at home now. And so they're cooking meals more for themselves and for more people more often. And we've got such a plethora of examples of recipes and explanations of cuts and so forth, so that our consumers can tap into that. And we have a great conduit through our social media programs to get to where the consumers are in their home now. And that's a great blessing. We use that iconic brand, Beef, It's What's for Dinner, that's so beloved out there. And through the NCBA's work and the state beef councils themselves, we've increased advertising and consumer outreach through tips on preparation recipes. And like I mentioned before, we're also, what a great time to have chuck nose beef. And when a feeble-minded moron like me can run chuck nose beef, anybody can do it. And so that's a great and easy way for people to find out how do you use these different cuts, what are the cuts that you can use, how do you prepare them and so forth, and give them some real confidence in preparing meals for their family that we know they're going to like because of the taste, and also know, you know, the nutritious and safety of it and so forth. Here, I'm going to read a little bit more here. Since we launched this in mid-March, we've reached nearly 13 million consumers. The videos have been viewed 9 million times, and there have been 27,000 clicks back to the beefitswhatsfordinner.com for recipes and meal preparation. So you can see that not only are people checking us out, they're actually going into the detail to find out what the recipes are. So visits to our website have increased 82% since March 5th. I don't know if that's a record, but that sounds like a big number to me for somebody that doesn't understand social media very well. And so it's been a great blessing, I think, for us to be able to have social media. And as you know, that the cost of that is really, really cost effective. So our producers can feel good about what we're able to accomplish through the checkoff and the Federation work on their behalf.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, this coronavirus pandemic that we're all weathering through as we speak isn't the first crisis of its kind to impact the beef cattle industry. Looking back over the years, we've had the BSE issue, and of course before that we dealt with the FMD issue. With what you just said, I mean, how important has it been, or maybe how critical has it been, that the beef cattle industry has such an important, powerful, valuable tool like the Beef It's What's for Dinner website?
Oh, you're right, exactly. Great comment, great question. As I mentioned, we've got this wealth of information through research on safety and nutrition and taste. We understand our consumer, we understand what they like, what they want. And so we've got that at our fingertips to reach out to them at a time when everything's changed. And so everybody's habits have changed. And this is something that no matter how we come out of this pandemic and how behavior may have changed, we've still got that conduit into their homes and into their knowing what they want to do and want to eat and what they like. So we've had all this consumer content over the years. And I want to give another shout out to the people that came before us, the volunteers and the staff that for decades now have built up all this information that we can use and we have at our fingertips today. And so we can quickly and efficiently provide the information that they need. After all, we all know that many people aren't preparing all that many meals for themselves. And there's a great interest in different recipes and so forth, and we've got them for them.
Well, kind of continuing on that theme, Buck, at the beginning of April, I know a new campaign was launched. Tell us a little bit more about this new campaign and why cattlemen and cattlewomen across the country, including yourself, are so excited.
Yeah, I love this one. We came out with the Nicely Done beef, which was sort of a little funny, little humor, a little not sarcasm, but a little edginess to it, Nicely Done beef. And now we have gotten 3 celebrity chefs to work on new recipes. And the first one, playing off of that on the play on words, is Kentucky Fried Beef. So instead of KFC, it's KFB. And I think that's really good and really popular. It's a nice dish. Also Peking Chuck, obvious reference to Peking duck, and another nice use of beef in a recipe that's popular. And then finally, the calamari, that's my favorite one. And for those, as Rush Limbaugh says, those of you in Rio Linda, that's squid, and so they've got a beef squid dish. And so we're kind of playing off that Nicely Done beef idea. And these I really like. Since April 1st, we've reached more than 6.5 million consumers and secured 4.5 million video views. So I think those are impressive numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I love them, and there's some great topics, and certainly the beef cattle industry is playing off some very good notes there that have worked in the past for some other industries for sure. Believe it or not, whether it's in Nebraska where you're at or in Billings, Montana where I'm at, the temperatures are finally warming up. And with that said, let's talk about looking forward as we all start to return back to normal, so to speak, and maybe, just maybe, get outside and enjoy some grilling outdoor weather.
Yeah, and what's better than getting out and lighting up the grill and not having to wear your mucklucks to do it? So like today, we're supposed to be 78 here in Nebraska. Great time for grilling. And along those lines, the checkoffs come up with some cool ideas, including United We Steak. And so that's playing off different states and what steak that they're kind of known for. California's kind of known for the tri-tip, for instance, and coming up with recipes for that. And we may go even to the extent of having the steak cut in the shape of the steak cut in the shape of the state the steak and steak. And so this is another good one I think can be a lot of fun and play on the pride of each state. And so, you poor states that are just kind of rectangles, I'm sorry, but the states with interesting shapes are going to be kind of fun. And we think that that's going to really showcase the 50 states and get a lot of people involved as grilling becomes obviously a highlight of meals.
I love it. Well, before we let you go, any other words you want to add to our viewers, Buck, to encourage your fellow beef cattle producers as we get through this?
Yeah, we're in such uncharted territory. I mean, we've been in market wrecks before, and like you mentioned, BSE, where demand dropped and so forth. But my mother will be 88 this summer, and I asked her, have you ever seen anything like this? Never. I mean, this is just unique, hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event that we're all suffering through. And I would say that for the beef producers, which means the checkoff investors, because we all pay our dollar checkoff, understand and remember that your checkoff is working and it is effective. And so in spite of the great demand that's out there and what people are willing to pay for our product, and a lot of it, exports are up 26% for the year, it feels like we don't all get our fair share, and that is frustrating and aggravating. But remember that the checkoff's job by law is to increase and strengthen beef demand. And we don't get to influence policy. We don't get to influence the food pyramid other than showing the nutritional value of beef. And yet, if we don't have demand, think about what this would be like if our demand was like it was in the early 80s when I broke into this business, down every year. Demand is going up every year. And the checkoff stands accountable for part of that. The checkoff's done a good job. You think about the staffs and the volunteers over the years, and what's been done, and those levels and things that we build on today. You can be confident that the checkoff is working for you. The staff is working. The volunteers are working, and beef demand should stay strong. And that is the key to all of this. We don't control the other things, but the checkoff is working, and you can feel good about your investment. I guess that's what I would say.
Very well said, my friend. Well, Buck, we better let you get back out to the feedlot, and we certainly thank you for your efforts on behalf of your fellow beef cattle producers nationwide. To find out more about how the Beef Checkoff is working to promote beef to consumers and to view outstanding beef information and recipes, visit the website beefitswhatsfordinner.com. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll head to Colorado to see how the Johnson family works to keep the Flying Diamond Ranch going from generation to generation. That story coming up next. Stay with us.
Are you concerned about the impact government policies could have on your cattle business? One way to make your voice heard in Washington is by joining NCBA. When you join, you'll have access to key policy updates and insights from Beltway Beef. It's the best way to hear directly from NCBA's DC team. Beltway Beef provides valuable policy information, and it's free for NCBA members. Stay in touch with Beltway Beef. Join now at ncba.org.
How's your production on pasture? Are profits down? Are weight gains down? What are you going to do about it? Do something cost-effective. Do something that will make a difference. To add the first and proven leader in feed-through horn fly control to your cattle rations, ask for it by name, Alticid IGR.
Well, one of the great strengths of the American cattle industry is that so often families work together. A great example of this is the Flying Diamond Ranch in Colorado, where several generations work side by side. And together, they care for their cattle and also share the belief that they're building a firm foundation to help create a future for the next generation. Here's their story.
I don't know if there's a lot of other industries or careers where literally your entire family is a vital element of a job you have to get done.
I don't think I can overstate how blessed we are that our kids want to continue to range. If they wouldn't, I'm sure I'd play more golf, I'd travel more, I'd sleep in later. You know, I wouldn't be really motivated to continue.
The Flying Diamond Ranch is a family-owned and operated cow-calf and yearling operation that's been headquartered in eastern Colorado since 1907 when my great-great-grandfather Charlie Collins founded the ranch.
The ranch scattered out over 50,000 plus acres, thousands of head of cattle. My wife Jean and I own the Flying Diamond, but now we've incorporated in our 4 kids into ownership and management of the ranch. We have property in West Cliff, Colorado, in the mountains.
Hey, let's go!
And the old family ranch is in Kit Carson. Then we have some property halfway between West Cliff and Kit Carson. It's 4,000 acres. And then we're kind of evolving, you know, finding where everyone fits well. Jennifer's kind of in charge of our grazing. Charlie's managing the ranch in Kit Carson. Miles, he does kind of the administration admin for it. My wife Jean and I kind of manage a few of these front range things. Our oldest son, Will's the CEO, kind of keeps the whole thing together. And Mom, you know, she's kind of a guiding light for the family. I think that's been one of our unfair competitive advantages in our family for the 115 years, is we've always really valued the women. They're all out here roping, they're all out here giving shots. I mean, they're doing all we're doing out here every day. We're just a better unit by using the girls and the guys equally out here.
When I think of my childhood, when I wasn't in school or playing athletics, I was on the ranch. You know, we didn't have a PlayStation or Xbox. Our time as kids was on this ranch.
I can remember a lot of bumping around in the truck with my dad while he was throwing hay off the back. I mean, I can't ever remember not wanting to go out and, you know, check cows, feed cows, do whatever. Shh, you gotta be quiet. You gotta be quiet. Do you know why they're coming to see us? Because they're curious.
And they want food.
Do you think they want food, or do they just want to know who we are?
They just know want food.
I love being able to bring my daughter out into nature in a way that is, you know, very different than going on a hike. It's we're working in nature. It kind of matters, giving that knowledge and imparting that on my daughter from a very young age. I just love that, and I hope, you know, she grows to love that.
I have amazing days out on the ranch, amazing memories that I'm so happy and grateful to have. And now I have the opportunity to contribute so the next generations may have some of those good days.
Hi, little man. Oh,
My wife, who grew up in the city, is very excited to have our children grow up in this lifestyle.
We're now going into the 6th generation, and for a family business to last that long, especially in the cattle industry, is amazing.
Family is the focal point of what we're doing here at Flying Diamond, and it is no different when I was a kid, it's no different when my dad was a kid. The saying that my sister says, you know, as early as you can do something on this ranch, you do something on this ranch. This is about the lifestyle of not many people choose to live here, but I think they're all missing out because this is pretty awesome.
Truly, As a rancher in ag production, our decisions are for the animal's well-being. I mean, when your livelihood depends on an animal, when literally you're making your living, you're feeding your family through stewardship and caretaking of animals, putting animals first, I think it's just, a guiding principle of our ranches. In my assessment, there's a lot of misunderstandings of what production agriculture really is in the United States, and yet that's what the consumer is hearing. That's what is shaping their choices when they are at the supermarket and whatnot.
I think we all hear about factory farming and corporate farming. We, the Johnson family, the Flying Diamond Ranch, we'd be considered a large cow-calf operation. This is what it looks like. It's almost always a family operation. Guys like me are raising beef in America.
I think a really amazing thing about family ranching is that your heart is always going to be in the right place because you're doing this for family. That means you will do the right thing for the environment, you will do the right thing for the cows, and you'll do the right thing for the business because it's for a family. And there's no greater purpose than doing something for your family.
That story was brought to you by Beringer Ingelheim, who's proud to feature a ranch that embodies the company's Cattle First philosophy. You can see the entire documentary at cattlefirstmovie.com. Well, there's more Cattlemen to Cattlemen still ahead, right after this.
Grass is the center of our universe. So everything revolves around that. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. What we need is an effective herbicide that can kill the weeds. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering. We grow our own cows. We like selling them, not buying them. I'm Tommy Brandenberger, and along with my wife, we're cow-calf producers.
Well, with us on today's program is Robert Edmondson from Ritchie Industries. And Robert, we're going to talk about the significance of some of your new products here at Ritchie Industries. But first, I want you to describe for folks at home the importance of livestock operations, not only to have a clean water supply for their animals, but also a reliable water supply.
Sure. Yes, a clean water supply is very beneficial to the end user because it helps. You know, it's nutrition for the animals. It'll save them money in the long run if they have clean, fresh water to drink. Animals are less tendency to get sick. Then for a fresh water supply, a clean fresh water, something that's easy to clean, fresh clean water all the time is very beneficial to them.
Well, you guys have been around for quite some time. Let's talk about this new water that is right in front of us, the Genesis, and I guess what prompted the need for this new Ritchie Industries water?
Sure. A couple years ago, we came out with a new line of waters called the Genesis. This one here actually came out in October of 19. The the need for the line of waters was it's something that's easy for a farmer to get into. So if they're currently on a stock tank or a concrete water or something like that, and they want to step up into a more of an automatic type of water system, this is a good option for them. It's easy to install. You don't have to put it on. You don't have to mount it down. It can be portable, or you have the option of mounting it down and having a permanent location for it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What sets this new model kind of apart from some of your traditional Ritchie waters?
Well, the traditional ones, they're not designed to be portable. You can't move them around, so they have to be bolted down. Where this one's a little different. It's lightweight. It's easy to move. You can get an attachment to it to hook it up to a garden hose if you wanted to. So if you're looking for something that you want to be portable with, this is a good option for you. This particular one, the Genesis line, is a non-insulated unit. So it's different than all of our other units because of that. It's really designed for like a portable installation. It's designed for the southern states where they don't really need all that heavy insulation that we do in our other units. This unit also has the elliptical balls that float in on top, which helps prevent evaporation during the summer, cuts down on algae growth. So it's a pretty good model for the southern states and that type of area.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, as we kind of wind things up here, Robert, is there a particular animal species like this particular Ritchie water works better for than maybe some of your other Ritchie products?
Well, this one was designed for cattle, but it can be used for anything, goats, sheep, on up from there. So it's not really designed for a specific animal, but it'll handle just about all of them.
Well, we appreciate you taking a little time for us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen to describe all the new models along with some of their traditional waters at Ritchie Industries. Of course, in the meantime, you can always find out more information about Ritchie Industries and their products by visiting them online at ritchiefont.com.
And with me now is Clay Burson with Purina Animal Nutrition. Clay, you got some exciting new products, one of which is the Purina Wind and Rain Pro Cycle. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So we're tremendously excited about the Pro Cycle product. It was really developed to be a premium type product that fits customers with high performance expectations. So if they're in the seed stock business, a club calf producer, or maybe even a commercial cattleman that just has really high performance standards, this product was designed to be an elite product and target those customers.
So my understanding is you make some claims relative to fiber digestibility, and why is that important?
Absolutely. Fiber digestibility is critically important for anybody in the cow-calf business. Your greatest resource is your forages. And if we can make better use of your forages, especially the times of year when you have low quality forages, we can improve cow condition and in turn maximize reproduction.
Yes. And you also mentioned that when it comes to mineral bioavailability, that's a critical element and something this product does exceptionally well.
Absolutely. So we've really prided ourselves on creating a high bioavailability package of trace minerals specifically, including two sources, an organic source from Zenpro's performance product called ProPath 4, really a cutting edge type product that's an amino acid complex that is extremely bioavailable. And then we've also included an inorganic source, which is in the hydroxy form. This particular inorganic trace minerals absorb just a little bit differently than the ProPath product would be, both protected against rumen antagonisms, and together they have a synergistic effect that maximizes bioavailability.
Wow. And can you give us any examples of folks that have used this product? What are they saying as it compared to some of your other mineral products?
Absolutely. So we've got some customers that have used this product in an embryo transfer program. We've seen about a 15 to 20% improvement in a couple of operations in terms of transferable embryos. More of those embryos are sticking, and every embryo we get to stick is certainly critically important, helps drive the bottom line.
Well, thank you, Clay, for coming and sharing with us this insight on this new product. We've come to appreciate all the innovation that Purina Animal Nutrition brings to our industry.
Thank you.
And for more information about Purina Wind and Rain Pro Cycle, go to purinamills.com. When we return, we'll check in with our good friend Baxter Black. Stay with us.
We didn't just design the 6M tractors with you in mind. We designed them with you by our side. The new 6M tractors from John Deere. Reimagined by you, for you. With improved visibility, better maneuverability, and more ways to customize, so you get everything you need and nothing you don't. Experience the new 6M at your local John Deere dealer.
At Leachman Cattle, we're committed to building more profitable cattle.
As a third-generation seed stock producer, our family has been in this business for over 80 years. Today, we have the best technology ever to build more profitable cattle. Our dollar profit index is a leader in the industry to help you balance all the traits that drive your bottom line. Give us a call or go to www.leachman to learn more.
We know you're up before the dawn because the cattle rise before the sun. And you spend long hours in the saddle because the herd isn't always over the next rise. And you care for the land because you know it takes care of your family. And we know you do great work. And it's time to tell that story to the marketplace. IMI Global is here to help you do just that.
There is a great book out on horse lamenesses. The author is my friend and a fine equine veterinarian, which means he can tell a $50 horse from a $5,000 horse over the phone. Well, I complimented him on the thoroughness of his coverage, and then I noticed there was only one mention of the chestnut. I'd expected a full chapter. He politely explained that you couldn't write a page on the chestnut, much less a chapter. Well, I took that personally. I have an attachment to vestigial appendages, the pelvis in a blue whale, the wishbone in a turkey, the appendix in a human, the heart in a banker. The chestnut is the remnant of the medial phalanx, which is the equivalent to the human thumb, the inside toenail of an elephant, or the anchovy in a salad. As I ponder the chestnut's contribution to civilization, I remember on the Ark, Noah had a chestnut attack. Yes, that's right, an egregious craving for chestnuts. "I can't steer without my chestnut," he cried. "But Noah," his wife said, "the Ark doesn't have a rudder." Well, I've always suspected that Napoleon really lost at Waterloo because his horse suffered a chestnut injury instead of losing a horseshoe. I mean, a horseshoe? It's common knowledge that hard-to-diagnose lamenesses are often blamed on the shoer, and I think that's what Napoleon did, even though he knew it was really the modest chestnut. Well, the most famous line about chestnuts is, of course, from that song, "Chestnuts roasting on an open fire," which is wrong. The lines were really mistranslated down through the millennia. It is really derived from an old chant from the Senior Pro Rodeo Association. "Stress nuts roping 'cause they can't retire." I have my own lucky chestnut. I take it with me every time I go riding. My horse carries it for me. I think it's protected me from many things. I've never been trampled by a herd of wildebeest, and I've never been tempted to eat an ergot, which, of course, would be blasphemous so far as a chestnut nut is concerned. This is Baxter Black, another nut from out there.
It started with a man, a plot of land, and a few head of cattle. That man, your great-grandfather. You've got his name and his legacy too. It's what you fight to live up to and work to leave behind. With innovation, integrity, and passion that runs as deep as yours, we'll be there. For your operation, for your future, for you. This is why Merck Animal Health works.
Now a BQA tip from the Beef Quality Assurance Program.
We know cattle are a great resource. They take a lot of materials, plants, things that are unusable in many other circumstances, whether it's grazing crops, grasses, co-products that are available, and we turn that into a very nutritious, dense product. But in order to do that and to be effective in doing that, we know that cattle we need to have the basics there in the framework to accomplish that. So nutrition is a big part of BQA from the standpoint of we need to not only make sure that animal is healthy, but we do that through making sure we have providing the adequate nutrition, adequate vitamin, minerals, and certainly a good clean water source for those cattle. Part of that entails looking at those feed resources, getting them evaluated and analyzed so we know exactly what we're providing to that animal, and just to set that animal up for success in utilizing those products.
Find out more about beef quality assurance at bqa.org.
Time now for Legacy Photos, as we share some of the great shots submitted by viewers all across the country. Let's take a look. Why not send us photos of your own? You can email them to c2c@beef.org or message them to us on the Cattlemen to Cattlemen Facebook page, and we may use them on a future episode. If you're like me, you could have never imagined a scenario like the one we're living through right now, with the economy locked down and people sheltering in place all across the country. Undoubtedly, the COVID-19 crisis has had a dramatic impact on our lives and our industry, and it's likely not over yet. But through it all, I can tell you this: the team at NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is committed to bringing you the timely insights and news you need to make the decisions necessary in the weeks and months ahead. I also take comfort in the words of a former pastor from Garden Grove, California, a farm boy from Iowa himself, Robert Schuler, who once said, "Tough times never last, but tough people do." And there are no tougher people than the people in the cattle business. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week right here on RFD TV.